Huh. Alright. Excuse me. Pardon my sickitude. So this is Tom versus Sedna. And Tom has been looking for a game that meets the criteria of him doing okay on his build and yet still losing for quite a while. And he tends to only lose when he messes up his build, and so he hasn't been able to send me anything, and it got frustrating after several days of not being able to send anything. So he was like, look, I'm just going to send everything, and you can pick apart what you can from there, because I never lose if I mess up my build. And that should in itself be your advice. Just get better at not messing up your build, and you'll never lose, right? That's funny. So this is a silly 4-gate, 1-basing Protoss, and you bunkered in with a Wallen, and so you just kind of auto-win. You had SCVs hotkeyed because that's the way to beat Protoss, man, and so you just kind of pulled SCVs and crushed him, and that was the end of the game. That's always fun. And you get to win for free. It wasn't even close. And then eventually you are going to cross the field, hopefully right now. Oh, you lost the Banshee. It's nice to use the Banshee to scout what build he's going for, but it's not really worth losing it. So when you go over here, you just gotta be watching it before you let it go into a place where it could get hit. Ooh, and there's a pylon that you're gonna kill before you push in. I like that. It's nice, it's happy, but it does let you push a little bit more. And here we go, death. You didn't even have to pull workers. It's just like unbelievably easy from here. So let's take a look at the more nitties and the more gritties. The general theme of what units you made and how you used them was great. 24 workers, 375 army. Looks like you did the 111 into 211. So that was basically 500. This is basically 1,000 at 7 minutes. That's kind of low. He 4-gated, and he should have 4-gated and hit you at 6 something if he 4-gated properly, which he didn't. But you always got to kind of be expected to be hit between 6:30 and 8 minutes in TVP if he's going to hit you. And sure enough, here he comes at 7 minutes, and you only have $1,000 plus the bunker is 1,100. So you should have $500 more, is my point. Part of why you don't have very much more is that you made this second rack, so you don't really have the amount of money that you normally would with the 111. Excuse me. These three buildings together have a $750 potential spending. So making this additional racks just kind of feels like taking money away from your army. I guess it all depends. I don't know. It's like I said, you won the game, so it's hard to criticize your build, but you do notice that you were behind at 7 minutes. This is why when Nick went the 111, he would always be ready to build additional bunkers if he scouted that no Nexus was out there at 6:30 or whatever. Because 1-bases are so much harder to resist when you're 111ing. Because siege tanks and banshees are both 50 health per dollar, so they're really easy to knock down if you haven't pulled SCVs at an appropriate time, and then you're just kind of doomed. So that was a good defense, but I wish you had more army at that point. Let's see what's going on. Why don't you have more army? So the factory is supposed to start at 3:30. Okay, so right now is the factory, and you started at a perfect time. And the starport should be at 4:30 right now, and it is. It's the perfect time. You did this build perfectly. First tank should start immediately, and it did. So I don't know. You did everything just right. It was all beautiful. These are idle for a little while. Yeah. So the second racks is what really gets you. Is you should have started these two units a lot earlier, but you spent all this money on the second racks. And that's just a trade-off. I mean, you're saying I'm willing to cut a little bit of army in order to have infantry upgrades and more infantry, and that's fine. I mean, I don't know. Unless you lose because your army is too small at this time period, then keep doing it, man. It seems fine. Like, you're cutting army at a period of time when you're bunkered up and defending anyway, so who cares how big your army is if you're bunkered up and defending. So hopefully you get back to a reasonable army size before 10 minutes, and it looks like you probably do. No, you definitely don't. 27, 28, 29. So you're $600 short at 10 minutes, but I think that's because you pulled so many SCVs to defend with, and you stopped dropping mules, and you just have a bunch of money in the bank and just let these buildings go idle. I don't think that's a big deal. As far as what you did with your army, I really dislike that you pulled SCVs and then didn't use them in the fight. This army is very marine it's very marine light, and the whole point of our TVP style is Marines. Like, it's all centered around Marines. When you 1-1-1, you make nothing but Marines out of this Rex. When you 2-1-1, you make 2 or 3 Marauders, and then you make nothing but Marines out of all of your racks. It's all about the Marines. Marines are great. Marauders are a support unit. Concussive Shells is a nice thing to have, but you never want more than 3 Marauders, and you didn't make more than 3 Marauders, and that's good. But so much of your money at this point is going into Banshees and tanks and Marauders that your total Marine count is like less than 16. It's very susceptible to things like Void Rays, Phoenixes, Charge Lots, and Immortals. Banshees are great against Immortals, but Charge Lots, basically the only way to do really well against a Charge Lot Archon army is to have a really high Marine count, because they rip Charge Lots to shreds. I think the critical mass of Marines is like 30 or more. For Charge Lots. So I suspect that with this build that you did, you're going to occasionally lose to Warp Prism 4 gates, which you'll probably never see, but if you do see them, you'll probably lose to them, because your mobile defensive, fighting army at 7 minutes is so small. You got $1,000 of army, but it's tied up in 2 tanks and a Banshee that aren't necessarily quite popped yet. I suspect that you'll lose quite a bit with this type of push to heavy Zealot armies. But the Banshees are encouraging him to get Stalkers, so that's partly what you want to do to counter that sort of heavy Zealot play. I don't know. Everything looked really good to me. Obviously, it could have been cleaner. You could have had less money in the bank. You could have had a bigger army. But by the time you pushed out, the game was already over, because he 4-gated and didn't kill you, and so by definition, he fails. Pardon me. I should probably stop while I go get the next one.